All right, our live stream is going, so let's go ahead and begin, and we can let more people in as they come. Everyone, welcome to our third masterclass of the Dramatic Voices Program 2021, Preparing Elektra. I am delighted to introduce Dr. Christopher White today to our masterclass. Chris is the Studienleiter, or the head of music at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. He has held staff music positions at the English National Opera and the Opernhaus Zürich before Deutsche Oper. He studied piano and piano accompaniment, and he completed his doctoral work at the Royal Academy of Music, London. He has had guest engagements as a musical assistant at the Munich Opera Festival, Glyndebourne, the Royal Opera House Covent Garden, and the Bayreuth Festival. And I can think of almost no better resource for what it's like working in the theater system in Germany. He's a wealth of knowledge and also a fantastic coach. If you ever get over here, call him up.
You're kind.
I would like to just jump in with our first singer. Alyssa, my dear, can you unmute yourself and tell us where you are from and what you'll be singing today?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Alyssa Cox, and I'm tuning in from Annapolis, Maryland. And today I will be presenting Chrysothemis' aria. Ich hab's wie Feuer in der Brust. One moment, sorry about that. There we go. Ich kann nicht sitzen und ins Dunkel starren wie du. Ich hab's wie Feuer in der Brust. Ich treib's mich immerfort herum im Haus. In keiner Kammer leidet mich. Ich muss von einer Schwelle auf die andere. Ach, treib ab, mir ist als rief es mich. Und komm ich hin, so steht ein leeres Zimmer mich an. Ich habe solche Angst, mir zittern die Knie bei Tag und Nacht. Mir ist die Kehle wie zugeschnürt, ich kann nicht einmal weinen. Wie Stein ist alles, Schwester, aber Barmen. Du bist es, die mit Eisenklammern mich an den Boden schmiedet. Wirst nicht du sie lesen und hinaus, wer nicht ein Hass, dein schlafloses, unbändiges Gemüt, vor dem sie zittern, ach, so ließen sie uns heraus aus diesem Kerker. Schwester, ich will heraus, ich will nicht jede Nacht bis an den Tod erschlafen. Ich sterbe, will ich euch leben. Kinder will ich haben, bevor mein Leib verwelkt. Und fürs Umbauer, dem sie mich geben, Kinder will ich ihm gebären. Und mit meinem Leib sie wärmen in kalten Nächten, wenn der Sturm die Erde zusammenschüttet. Hörst du mich an, sprich zu mir, Schwester. Hab Mitleid mit dir selber und mit mir, dem Frommsten solche Qual. Der Vater, der ist tot, der Bruder kommt nicht heim. Immer sitzen wir auf der Stange, wie angehängte Vögel. mit Messen gräbt Tag Tag in dein und mein Gesicht sein Mal. Und draußen geht die Sonne auf und ab. Und Frauen, die ich lang gekannt hab, sind schwer von Segen, wenn sich zum Brennen heben kaum die Eimer. Und auf einmal sind sie von den Ehren los, kommen zum Brunnen wieder. Und auf einmal und säugend hängt ein Leben von ihnen und die Kinder werden groß. Nein, ich bin ein Weib und will ein Weib. Schicksal.
Thank you very much. Very well done. And very well done in advance, everyone, for this singing in this very difficult, artificial kind of setting. But you gave me a lot to work with, a lot to think about. Well done. I would say for everybody, what Alyssa is doing in terms of the way she's presenting herself, standing, moving, and so on. If you're thinking about auditioning, which of course we all are all the time, it's a very difficult balance to strike between moving around all the time and making great facial gestures to show that you really mean it, and staying, still and stiff and looking bored, kind of thing. And I have to say, I thought you did that really well. There was a stillness in the body, yeah. That I felt, and obviously I'm not in the room with you, but I felt you were rooted and grounded physically. That's good. It's obviously essential for this kind of music. There was a little bit of double hand act. I can't really show you. You're too close to the camera. Just at the end, if you could possibly.
That accompaniment is so fast, and it makes me a little bit nervous with that.
Going to come on to that
for sure.
Going to come on to that. If it's all possible, it's a really good exercise for all of you, particularly dramatic singers, but really for any singer, but particularly for dramatic singers, to see how physically neutral you can be ideally in front of a full-length mirror. We may have talked about this already in our coaching, I forget. I think it's something that's incredibly valuable, because then it shows how much or how little you're really bringing over the music with your voice. Yeah. So when it's nothing but voice, as it were. And then, of course, we add in the physicality and the gestures and all that stuff that you learn in movement classes from your experiences on stage. And that's right. But before you do that, see how much or how little you are relying on those physical gestures. Anyway, I thought that was really really impressive. The very beginning, it's obviously one is nervous and wanting to get the voice underway, right, and make a good impression. In the context of the opera, however, Elektra is raging and ranting and raving, as you know, and you are at this point the yin to her yang, or should be. So in as much as you possibly can, ich kann nicht sitzen. Don't give anything away. Und ins perhaps a little bit of the D. Und ins Dunkel starben, wie du. But you, the singer, have to be aware that what's about to happen is this sudden explosion. Ich habe sie vorher in der Brust,
Right.
And there's really very little time to think whilst you're doing it. So you have to think before you do it, right? But not give it away to us, And then all of a sudden, because what we notice then is that Chrysothemis has her own neurosis. She has, I would say, and I say this conscious as being the only man in this meeting, but and shall we say an over intense desire to have children. She's been pushed to an extreme by Elektra's extreme going in the other direction, I would suggest. Should we try and shall we have a go at that? Just because, I mean, as you all know, the first impressions, the first in breath, the first note, you know, I mean, regrettably, so many judgments are already made, aren't they, by panels and by people who are listening to you. So if we can set this up as well as possible, then that will buy us big advantage. Okay, so let's go ahead.
Sure, sure.
Ich kann nicht sitzen und ins Dunkel starren wie du. Ich hab's wie Feuer in der Brust, es treibt mich immerfort herum im Haus. In keiner Kammer leidet's mich, ich muss...
Super, well done. Let's say for everyone who's singing extracts from Elektra today, and I know that that's not all of you, but for everyone who is singing extracts from Elektra, I am aware of how fast this backing track is. Let's say it's a very literal interpretation of Strauss's metronome markings, and I've factored that into what I'm saying. So if you're worried, oh, I'm not together, I don't mind, I don't care, frankly. That's not the most important thing today. Okay, so we've started. Ich habe sie Feuer in der Brust. Even though you see quarter note, tie, bar line, quarter note, that note has no length, should have no length. Ich habe sie Feuer in der Brust. Yeah? Go all the way to Brust, swing through to Brust. There's this wonderful German word which encapsulates the way Strauss writes, which is Schwung. I'm not sure there's a really good English translation, but I hope you all know what I mean by Schwung. Yeah, and this aria actually has tremendous Schwung. Yeah, so he gives you this marvelous hemiola coming up. Yeah, that's, if you like, goes a little bit against the Schwung. Yeah, so you have this 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 1 in a bar feeling, and then all of a sudden 1 2 3 1. Yeah, right. And that will be really great, even if it means, dare I say, even if it means you lose a little bit of tempo there. Yeah? I'd rather have that punchy, treibt mich immer fort herum ins Haus. Still in legato. I don't ever want anything that closes things up here. No, never. Right. Just give it a little, what I would call a little diaphragmatic punch. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. That would be the way I describe that. Okay. I'm going to say a couple more things all together so that we maximize the time efficiency. Okay. This is just my opinion, but ich muss von einer Schwelle auf der andere. Ach. And you see how ach is really separated. You know, you have rest before and you have rests before it. I would say keep on the support, of course, but in your mind, just briefly come out of aria mode.
Okay.
Understand what I mean? Yeah. Da, 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 dee. Ach. Yeah, the ach is there as something that goes sort of, as it were, deeper than the song.
Right, yeah.
And then back, Treppe auf, Treppe up. Yeah, great. Careful that you don't, your German, by the way, is excellent. So
thank you.
There's lots of very good things. A couple of mistakes and a couple of taste things. If you look at Rehearsal 83, then schlafloses, unbändiges Gemüt, that was very good. And then vor dem, you rolled there, vor dem sie zittern or something. It's not necessary.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
In fact, when we have Z words, or Z words, as you guys would say, with the TS sound, zittern, or zerfressen von den Motten, or something Clytemnestra has, that's always worth making space for, yeah?
Yeah.
Vor dem sie zittern, yeah?
Got it, okay.
I prefer that.
Yeah.
We may have talked about this before in our one-to-one sessions, forgive me if we did, but I'm still not quite getting the contrast between the generosity of Kinder will ich haben and then bevor mein Leib verwelkt.
Yeah, okay.
Think of that D flat, and I described that to many of you probably already, because I've seen so many messes I've lost count, as a blue note, yeah? Bevor mein Leib verwelkt. Yes, very, very nice. Superb writing, really. Und wer sein Bauer, den sie mir geben. That was great. I just wanted to say that. Okay. And then one more thing, and then we can do a bit of singing. Right. It's always very dangerous when you have these kind of 3 bars rest after rehearsal 90. This is where Elektra sings Armes Geschöpf. Yeah. just as much as Elektra's not paying you any attention, you mustn't pay her any attention. Okay, you're going on. You're completely. You should be going on completely parallel lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Schwester, 1, 2, 3, 1. Hab Mitleid mit dir selber. Yeah. Don't wait for her. Don't wait for the orchestra. You need that inner tactus. Yeah. Otherwise, we don't have much hope. Hab Mitleid mit mir selber. Dir selber. Sorry. Very good. Okay, good. We may have talked about this before, you and I, but it's nice for everyone. This wonderful bit of word painting, which I had pointed out to me just a few weeks ago when I was doing this in Salzburg. Wie angehängt. Did we talk about that, you and I?
Yes.
You did. I'm still not quite getting it. It's slightly disgusting word painting because you're imagining a bird with a hook through its jaw, hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hope no one's eating lunch or something. But and you can really swing it, yeah. Almost imagining that the 8th note is on the next bar line, right?
Yeah.
And this is these are the details in a piece like this, which is otherwise so extreme and frankly so loud. The places where you can not humanize it, but just give a little bit of depth to the characterization. Yeah, and I do understand, not just with this backing track, but on stage in a stage context, the music comes at you so fast. But that's what we experience as the audience as well. So that is the piece simply. Yeah. So whenever you can work against that and give us, frankly, a bit of respite and something, oh, that was unusual. And if you like portamento off Vögel, a little one.
Got it. Okay.
It's kind of disgusting and wonderful at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. Und niemand kommt. You've got to sing that very early. The und has got to come very early. If you're too early, I'm happy. If you're too late, then it just sounds like another quarter note, which is a shame.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And then, danger in this kind of music. If you look at Rehearsal 97 and the 4 bars before it, you see how there's in the orchestra 1 chord tied over 4 bars.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously a conductor will help, but it's also your responsibility as the singer. Bom, bom, bom. Kein Bruder. 1, 2, 3, 1. Kein Bote von dem Bruder, nicht der Bote. Actually, even more when an orchestra is either still or just giving tremolando or something like that, that you as the singer are now responsible for the rhythmic forwardness of it. Yeah, and this aria, this piece never stops.
Right.
Yeah, that's why at the very end, Elektra sort of crashes to the floor, like that, and it's just simply exhausted. Yeah, it's kind of the music is kind of spun out. Great. Now there's just one last thing. I have to say that the very end with the top B flat, it peaked out. I didn't hear it. I think it might be a Zoom issue. I wonder if it's the original sound issue.
Let me see. Oh, actually.
I mean, it looked good, but I just couldn't hear it.
I did have original sound on.
You do?
But it must have turned.
Look, we probably won't get to it anyway. I'm not worried about that last one. What I would say is exactly mit Messen gräbt Tag Tag in dein und mein Gesicht sein Mann. The mine, the long note there, that looked to me a little stuck. Yeah, the airflow wasn't really alive there, because I need that to go through really. Mit Messen gräbt Tag. By the way, you don't need to go gräbt Tag. You don't need to do both T's.
Okay.
Gräbt Tag. It's still fast enough. You don't need to do that. Mit Messen gräbt Tag Tag in dein und meine Gesicht sein Mal, all the way through. Yeah? So that mine, I thought it was a little held. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Very nice. With the couple of minutes we have left, why don't you just pick it up, the recording, wherever it is, and have another go?
Absolutely. Do you want me to start about like halfway through, or?
I can't. Do what you like.
Like around. About halfway.
Oh, apparently there are 8 minutes left, according to my colleagues. So I think we can do the whole thing in 8 minutes. Let's do it. Oh, sorry, I was just being encouraging.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I should never encourage singers.
Sorry about that. Let me go back.
My fault.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Very nice. So you already picked up 2 or 3 of the things that I was saying. Good for you. Well done. And also that meant you could do it in one at the end, right? Stört ein leeres Zimmer mich an. All these tiny fractions, and I would say this to any dramatic singer really, all these tiny fractions, they add up, and all of a sudden you find that you can do a phrase you thought would be impossible in one, all of a sudden in one. And then that means you're winning.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Pick it up wherever you can.
Okay.
Ich habe solche Angst, mir zittern die Knie bei Tag und Nacht, mir ist die Kehle wie zugeschnürt, ich kann nicht einmal weinen, wie Schein ist alles, Schwester, hab Erbarmen. Du bist es, die mit Eisenklammern mich an den Boden schmiedet, wärst nicht du, Seele, rotten aus, wär nicht dein Hass, dein schlafloses, unbändiges Gemüt, vor dem sie zittern, so ließen sie uns schon heraus aus diesem Kerker. Schwester, ich will heraus, ich will nicht jede Nacht bis an den Tod hier schlafen. Ich sterbe, will ich euch leben, Kinder will ich haben, bevor mein Leib verwelkt und für sein Bauer, dem sie mitgeben, Kinder will ich ihm gebären und mit meinem Leib sie wärmen in kalten Nächten, wenn der Sturm die Hände zusammenschüttelt. Hörst du mich an, sprichst du mir, Schwester? Hab Mitleid mit dir selber und mit mir, dem frommsten solche Qual. Der Vater, der ist tot, der Bruder kommt nicht heim. Immer sitzen wir auf der Stange, wie angehängte Vögel, wenden links und rechts den Kopf. Und niemand kommt. Kein Bruder, kein Bote, von dem Bruder nicht der Bote, von keinem Boten nichts. Mit Messen gräbt Tag um Tag in dein und mein Gesicht sein Mal. Und draußen geht die Sonne auf und ab. Und Frauen, die ich schlank gekannt hab, sind schwer von Segen, wenn sich zum Brennen heben, kaum die
Can we stop? Can we stop? Thanks. That's no problem. I just wanted to maximize the time. Yeah. Just say a couple of other things. Okay. So this business about getting a little stuck. Dein und mein Gesicht sein Mal. Now, there's a lot of this rhythm in the aria. Dum ta dum ta dum ta dum ta dum. Right. Now, what you are doing, as a lot of singers do, is you get a little stuck on basically the bigger note, so the half note. Yeah. And what I think is this is our friend Schwung again, because if you give Schwung to the little notes which are at the end of the bar. Just to take one example that I've got open here. Mit Messen gräbt Tag um Tag in dein und mein Gesicht sein Mal, and so on. Yeah? Just a little bit more Schwung. I mean, it'll sound a little bit more energy to those notes. Yeah? It won't sound to us like you're sort of emphasizing the wrong beats, because they're strong beats, they're called strong for a reason, right? They're strong because they are on their own strong, right? You need to help, particularly in this kind of flowing music. And it's basic. You could imagine it was in like 12/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then I think you'd, if it was written in 12/8, you'd probably do it naturally, yeah? Because in compound time, you know, we have, basically there's more information per bar. And za-dum, 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 that kind of swings on, yeah?
Yeah.
Great. The one place where it's not the recording's fault, but it is your fault, is back a bit. Mir ist die Kehle wie zugeschnürt, ich kann nicht einmal weinen. Yeah. There's no harm, by the way, in going, ich kann nicht einmal weinen. Yeah. Actually accelerating in those things, particularly if you find yourself behind. But even if you don't find yourself behind, the point there is the point of all of Elektra and Chrysothemis and Clytemnestra is you can't settle. You know what I mean? You can't say, you've got no peace. Ist die Kehle wie zugeschnürt, ich kann nicht einmal weinen. You know, if only I could cry, if I could cry it out, then perhaps I'd have a bit of peace. Understand? But you don't. So that's what he's illustrating there. Yeah. And again, it's a sort of danger point where the orchestra just sits on one chord. So you're sort of thinking, oh, I'm free. No, you are not free. And you know, even though, you know, we've talked about the recording, you know, a conductor at that point would say the same. It would be come on. That's yeah. So think we may have said this before, but you know, with Strauss, think more like Mozart. Think more, you know, that horizontal kind of free-flowing, glorious sort of outpouring of melody, rather than Wagner, where everything is so invested and everything's so, you know, if you're not careful, sort of sat on, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, is that enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Our next singer is Olivia. Olivia, if you would like to unmute yourself and let us know where you are from and what you will be singing.
Absolutely. My name is Olivia. I am currently calling in from Clarkston, Michigan, and I will be singing Orsai chi l'onore from Don Giovanni.
Non-Strauss, I can't believe it. Thank you. Nice to hear some recognizable harmonies. as opposed to complex spells. Okay, tell me, do you have the recit?
No, I do not.
Okay, that's no problem for today. If you are going to have this as an audition aria, you know, in your package and so on, it will be great to include the recit as well, because actually the amazing thing about this aria is it's kind of over in a flash, whereas the recit is one of the great accompanied recits of all time. Actually, you know, it tells us so much about her character and all that, and then you can set up. Not only can you, as it were, warm up vocally for the aria, which makes it easier, I think, rather than just singing it in isolation. You can also find loads of character things there, which kind of if you pay in there in the recit, then they'll pay out in the aria. If that makes sense. Okay, great. Now listen, I'm seeing you front on, of course. I think what's happening sometimes when you're wanting to emphasize, when you're wanting to emote a little more. Is that you are pushing the neck forward slightly.
Okay.
I'm going to turn sideways. I hope this works. Can you see me in profile? Yeah? It's that business. Yeah? It's what you call a lordotic posture sometimes, and that basically means that the pipes, right, have a bend in them, shall we say, that doesn't help. Basically, it doesn't help with the sound production, the airflow, and so on. Okay, so if you could, not now, but just in practice, and this is useful for anybody, when the singing gets a bit more intense in your in the phrases that you have to sing, just a very, very light bob of your either hand, doesn't matter, on the chin, yeah, to make sure that you have a longer back of the neck, and that you're not jutting forward like that. Yeah, I'm doing it very extreme. Of course, you weren't doing it anything like that, but that we don't have that jutting forward, because then you have a more. It was what I was saying earlier with Alyssa, which is the more neutral posture, and that can really help. Yeah, great. I mean, can you give me? Let's talk art now. Can you give me a couple of adjectives for Donnel, generally as a person, as a character?
I think she's a very driven character. I think
Yep.
that she can play things subtly, but is also very mission oriented and thoughtful in her decision making.
Mm-hmm. Let's put it this way. How that's great, thank you, and we'll come back to those. How is she different from the other women in Giovanni?
I think she's more outspoken than the other women.
Oh, you think she's more outspoken than Elvira, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Fine, good. It's always really interesting. No, there's no right. There's genuinely no right or wrong answer here, by the way. I'm certainly not trying to trick. The word that always comes to my mind, and this is what we miss, you know, singing Giovanni in the 21st century, is aristocratic. Yeah, so she is, you know, easily the highest kind of person in the hierarchy of this whole thing. She's probably even a bit higher in the hierarchy than Don Giovanni is. I mean, I have no proof for that, but somehow, you know, with her father being the commendatore and everything, and the way she presents herself, in that marvelous moment in the second act sextet when you and Ottavio come on, all of a sudden it's the timpani and the trumpets, bam 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 da da dee da dum, yeah, and you just the La Reina, you know, is all of a sudden coming in, and I find this also in by the way with the Count, as in Figaro Count, and almost for the same reason, what it prevents, if you just think aristocratic, then you get this, in German you say Abstand, just this slight emotional distance which she has, I think. You know, she doesn't just lay it all, she doesn't just put it all out there like Elvira does, in, dare I say, in her middle class way. You know, I mean, you can tell I'm English, right, because I'm talking about class the whole time. So what does that mean for singing? It means, I think, that there's in the way you deliver these magnificent phrases, there's more of a well, there's less of a vocal drivenness. I understand when you said driven, the character implications, that's great. But what we don't want is drivenness in terms of pushing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So those are two types of drivenness, if you like, that you have to keep really separate. Yeah. It's a similar thing to what I was saying to Alyssa right at the end of her session. Each time you have the eighth note, right, that propels you into the next bar. If we try and nourish those a little more, then that's going to help us. It's going to help us rhythmically, and it's going to help us with. I would argue it's going to help us with the breath flow. If we do the opposite, you understand? Then each half bar you're going to have to find more energy, and then just be completely exhausting. And I don't think it's. I think it's what Mozart particularly wrote, and I don't think it's helpful for you as a singer. So I think that would be the way I'd approach these phrases. That's also partly links back to the reason I was saying it's kind of useful to have done the recit before you launch into the aria, because you can, if you like, get all the extreme, Strauss-like stuff out of your system. You know what I mean? And then you're ready for these kind of it's sort of epigrammatic. Yeah, it's not just one person talking to another. It's kind of mottos, statements, phrases. Because you're aristocracy and you're used to commanding with few words and your commands being obeyed. Okay. And poor Ottavio, he knows all about that, right? He's being bossed around all evening. Great. Let's go again because it's such a short aria. After we've done that, let's see if you can work that into the way you sing it. It's all very difficult to process this stuff, in live in 2 minutes. So I don't expect it all to be completely different. And then we'll just talk about a couple of Italian things.
Okay.
Thank you. That very first pitch is just too short. Orsai, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Orsai, you know how you Americans, you always call them quarters and eighths and sixteenths and all that. I had a very good. There was a good masterclass. I think it was a piano masterclass I went to, and he said, "Well, yeah, maybe it's an eighth, but couldn't it be a seventh or a 7.5 or a ninth? So it's sort of still the correct rhythm, but it's using it to its. So I would say in this case, you want to make it like a seventh or a sixth, i.e., a little earlier, a little longer, yeah, because there's not enough time to do an open R and then a flipped R into psi unless you just, between you and me, cheat it slightly earlier. Bum 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 or psi, yeah, and that enables the swing into each next bar that we were talking about just now to happen much easier. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Great. Let's go again. I promise I won't interrupt you after one note.
Okay.
Whoa.
Let me try that again.
Oh, I promised, didn't I? I promised not to interrupt you after one note. I broke my promise. Horrible.
Okay.
No worries. I tell you what happened. You came in a half bar early, yeah? Wait for the lower strings. Dugga-dugum. Order high. Wait for the lower strings.
Okay.
Don't worry about the ending. Okay, so a couple of Italian things as promised. Okay, so double consonants we all know about, yeah? All of us in the meeting. Single consonants we also know about, right? But what we often think is that a double consonant is like a command. You must do it, yeah? Which is true, you must. But a single consonant is it's just a consonant, right? No, a single consonant is just as much you must do a single consonant as a double consonant is, yeah? And for us, this funny language we call English, it comes more naturally to us to kind of overdo the consonants, yeah, and not to rely on the vowels, and not only the emotion, but also the communication, in the very literal sense, in my opinion, resides in the vowel and the purity of the vowel. And the knock on to that is that you don't need to give the single consonants any help at all, as long as they're on the airflow. Okay, so orsai chi l'onore is a little bit what I was hearing. Okay, I'm exaggerating so that you know what I'm talking about. L'onore, because you're landing again. You're landing on the bar line. And then what you're doing is you're underlining the end, yeah, l'onore, and that's just a different word. It's not a word, I don't think. Okay, orsai chi l'onore, yeah. So the N is there. If it's there on a good airflow, it will be perfectly understandable and it will communicate perfectly fine. So what we English language singers often do is use these doubling of consonants, which shouldn't be doubled, as a kind of safety net, if you know what I mean, and not to trust that flow of vowel. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Great. So l'onore was one. Also, you need to make your T's and your D's more dental. Do you know what dental? Do you know what I mean by dental?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So instead of traditore, traditore. Yeah. Traditore. On chiede. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so you really are feeling the tongue against the upper teeth / hard palate. Yeah? Traditore. And again, it's all about the airflow. That will give you the communication, and it will give you the clarity, the consonant clarity. Because, as I would say this to all of you, not just to Olivia, I'm sure you've already had in your lives a lot of well-meaning directors and conductors saying that they want more text. Yeah? And the natural response to saying you want more text is to spit consonants. And of course, what that does is it compromises the efficiency of the airflow, because you're using muscles up here, which are, if you're not very careful, going to constrict things compared with the muscles lower down, which are more for support and so on. And then you're going to be doubling, and in Italian rep, you're going to be doubling consonants that shouldn't be doubled, and you're going to be making T's and D's kind of wetter than they should be, if you know what I mean. Okay, so we don't want to, we don't want to be drenched by T's and D's, if you know what I mean. We want them to be nice and dental. Yeah? Just a little artistic thing. Il padre, che il padre mi tolse. Now there, why am I doing a double P on padre the second time round? Because there is only one P. So perhaps I'm breaking my own rule. No, I'm not, because you're allowed to do raddoppiamento after a short word. Yeah. You don't have to, but you can. Che il padre, che il padre. I'm doing it very big now. I'm not suggesting you do it that big. But I think emotionally that works, right? So it's my father. Oh, my father. Yeah. Che il padre, che il padre mi tolse. Again, keep that good and plosive. Yeah, not padre, but padre. And then we have something kind of like an easy bit of emotion communicated there by the text, right? Mozart's done that for you. That's just perfect writing. It's such a glorious aria, obviously. Now then, I don't quite remember the words because I don't have them in front of me, but when we go into the D minor, ramenta la piaga or something, or remira il sangue, this stuff. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And in Don Giovanni, I have my sort of pet theory about Don Giovanni, which is that you have this kind of, chromatic, as we know from Strauss, is not as exciting for us in 21st century as it was in the 18th century. Okay, and the amount of chromaticism in this opera would have really given people the creeps, you know. It would have really made people very, very uneasy, if you like. And in most of the arias in Giovanni, you have this, what I would call the worm, you know. So like the worm in the apple. And this is the point where you're saying to Ottavio, you, Donnel, are reliving it the whole time. And you're saying, and you know, in imperative verb form, relive it with me, do it. Feel it again, look at it again, see it again. I can't remember exactly. So anyway, that's a whole new color, okay? And I think, you know, we're in Spain. You're an aristocrat. You know, you have this. I think you and Elvira both have this deep kind of dark Catholic sensibility. Yeah. So we're talking. Oh, thanks. We're talking about sin and death. And the abyss, you know, one of the best lines Elvira has, aperto veggio il baratro mortale. I see the abyss of death opening up in front of me. You know? So I think you can really channel that. Have a look at some Goya paintings, you know, some Spanish crucifixion type paintings, you know, and it's all extremely dark. You know, the colors themselves are dark, okay? And I think you can slip into that and allow your imagination then to fire a new color vocally there. Otherwise, please don't think you sounded shrill, but the aria itself can sound a little shrill, yeah, a little relentless. Yeah? And again, you have massive scope for doing that in the recit as well. Era già il quando avanzata la notte, E flat minor. I mean, in 1785 or whenever it was you wrote it, that is a, you know, the players would have been like, what's this E flat minor? I've never seen this in my life. So yeah, it's so hard for us moderns to plug into how revolutionary Mozart was. I know it's a bit of a cliche to say that, but please do look at those kind of Spanish penitential paintings and see if that can fire your imagination to some different colors in that particular place. Okay, that's fine. That's all from me. There are a couple of more Italian things we could talk about, but I think that's those things I mentioned are the main ones. So do we have a few minutes, or are
you have 3 minutes?
3 minutes, my goodness.
Luxury.
I can't be interesting for 3 minutes. Right. Okay. So right at the end, I forget the words, but the tune. This. Chiede il tuo cor, isn't it? That's what it is. It's a sort of noted graveyard. It's very, very difficult. I would only say, you know, I don't want to give technical advice because obviously we're not even in the same continent, let alone the same room. But just the way Mozart's written it, it's very easy to get stuck. Like I was saying to Alyssa about getting stuck on the longer notes. Chiede il tuo cor, yeah. Always go for chord in your head. Chiede il tuo cor, chiede il tuo cor. And don't be afraid also to release after the first one. I mean, release physically. Yeah, do what I would call a splat breath, where you release the abdominal tension and then the air rushes in on its own. You know, a conductor should give you a bit more time than your backing track. That was rather rushed at the end. So you were doing a very good job to try and keep up with it. But I think there is more space and time there than you're giving yourself. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay, I think that is it from me.
Okay, thank you.
Very well done. Nice to hear it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Olivia. That was lovely. We're going to take a 5-minute break and we will come back at Berlin time, 7 o'clock, and we'll see you all in a bit.
Okay.
on there. Okay.
All right, shall we get started?
Let's.
Okay, our next singer is Whitney Myers. Whitney, if you could unmute yourself and let us know where you're from and what you'll be singing.
I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I will be singing La Luce, Langue from Verdi's Macbeth.
Excellent. Thank you very much. You have a backing track or a live pianist that I can't see?
A backing track.
Okay, that's fine.
That is not a tempo I like either.
Oh, I see. No problem. Let's work with what we have. The very, very first entry, the very, very first, very tempting to come at it from a little bit low, isn't it?
Yes.
La, luce. I would fight that impulse, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from anything else, because the second pitch is a D sharp, right? La, luce, yeah, and that's not just me being boring. I hope. Maybe it is boring, but it's not the reason I suggested it. It's because you are obviously a terrifying character in this opera, and indeed in world literature, right?
Yeah.
And if I associate that kind of, I won't call it scooping, but just coming slightly from lower down with kind of warmth and humanity for some reason. I don't know why, but if you go zing right on the pitch.
Okay.
And it's the equivalent to kind of, I'm going to look in the camera now, fixing, this there, and sort of not blinking or something. This is that kind of terrifying intensity.
Yeah.
Now so that's one point. The next point, and I'm not able to judge really effectively by Zoom, but I think you were giving a little bit too much too soon, and that the journey of the aria slightly suffered from that. And I'd say it time and again, I understand it so well that a singer wants to make, a singer must make a good first impression, as we said earlier, but that equates to, listen to me, here's more, please hire me, that kind of thing. I'm not saying that was in your mind at all, but if you keep us on the edge of our seats, keep crescendos late, but steep, yeah? Climbing steep, hold back before it's necessary.
Okay.
As much as, and that's technically very difficult here because that is very difficult.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about thinking ahead, and I think this is linked to one of my old chestnuts. I've already heard me say it several times, so I hope I'm not boring everybody. But emphasizing or helping or nourishing the shorter notes at the end of the bar. Because this aria is the biggest culprit of all, isn't it? Because there's a half note on every bar line, and those half notes need to be simmering. Just when you've got a pot of water which is just not boiling but just starting to show a few bubbles. Yeah. So alive and moving, and then there's the interest, if you know what I mean. There's the where you're sort of developing the sound, developing the character, developing our interest and also our dread. It's like can't look away, isn't it? Because nuovo delitto, another sin. Going to get rid of banco now, yeah. And then later we're going to say è necessario, must happen. We can talk about that later. For the time being, should we start again with those things in mind?
Sure.
You can shorten the introduction if that helps. Take 10 seconds off it.
It does. I think it's like 25 seconds or something. Here we go.
Great. Thank you very much. That's better already. In terms of the text, I think he gives you a nice musical aid, which is what I call always short, long, right? La luce langue, il faro spegnesi, che te non scorre per gli ampi cieli. Yeah? I'm not saying you shouldn't breathe between bars 6 and 7, but if you just have in the back of your mind that it's not 4 identical phrases.
Yeah.
Because in I think any music from 18th century than early Verdi, what is death is when everything's symmetrical.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. So anything you can do to disrupt the symmetry, yeah. Later on, Verdi does that himself in his writing, yeah. But here he's not quite there yet. Obviously, he's still in a slightly earlier tradition, although obviously he's breaking very much with it. Great, excellent. I wouldn't mind hearing that again. Okay. So to try and get that phrase structure,
yes,
to bring that out a bit more. Fine.
Yeah. So I'll have to plan my breaths differently. I think my breaths are like practice, and I haven't practiced like a breath for all of that.
Absolutely, yeah. and it's great. I mean, it's this for everyone. It's great in practice to challenge yourself. You know, in this kind of music, in cavatina type music, to breathe, to take longer breaths than you will end up needing, even. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you know how adrenaline is, and you know how nerves are, and you know how stupid directors who tell you to sing the whole thing hanging upside down, or whatever, you know, they're all gonna bash your confidence in terms of singing these longer phrases. But if you could, when you're just at peace in your rehearsal studio, just challenging yourself really. Yeah, very nice. Okay, that's all I want to say for that part. So why don't we keep going?
Okay.
Just pick it up wherever you can.
I don't know where I stopped, but I'll figure it out, I'm sure. Okay, maybe I won't.
La man colpevole, that was.
Okay, I'm going to go back, sorry.
No problem. Great, very nice. Thank you. Super. I say this with great hesitation because again, I'm not in the room with you. I wonder if the when you're releasing and then breathing, whether that's not happening a little too high, or
yeah, it is. Mm-hmm, I feel
whether you can, yeah. I mean, so the way I have this fantastic type of acronym for breath, which I learned from a teacher in London, and it's SPLAT, yeah. And you know the idea there, and it's not a very pretty image, but the idea is that it's SPLAT. But also it's a good acronym because it stands for Singers Please Loosen Abdominal Tension. Yeah. So that's kind of how you could remember it. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of that is if you really release rather than breathe in, then because nature abhors a vacuum, you probably heard that phrase. The air comes rushing in of its own accord. Yeah, doesn't need help. It's similar to what happens when you nearly drown. Mm-hmm. I hope you've never nearly drowned, but you know when primal instinct basically takes over and the breath just has to come in. You know, so much of what we do, particularly as dramatic singers, is connected with these primal things. Which I can speak with experience as a father of an 18-month-old daughter who has magnificent breath control and perfect squealo, and demonstrates that all hours of the night. So it really is back to primal. in so many ways. Good. What do we have? What's the? Please don't look at your music and answer me this. With la man colpevole, what does Verdi give us there for the first time?
I don't know.
Gives you crescendo, gives you dynamics, yeah.
Okay.
So Verdi is an early-ish proponent of giving the singer separate dynamics to the orchestra, as you know. So this is one place you dealt with that phrase very nicely, but you see you have very similar phrases prior, and it's very tempting in each two-bar phrase to do the hairpin dynamic, yeah. Mm-hmm. But the very fact that Verdi doesn't write that until when he does, shows you that you should keep it under wraps. Let the voice and the phrase and the tessitura bloom, obviously, but he does say at the beginning culpo, right? So there's so just to use an analogy from my world, the organ, you have the swell box, and the way you get dynamics is that physically doors open and close, yeah? So it's only quieter because the doors are closed, right? Yeah. So if you think about that in terms of like the trajectory of the aria, the swell doors are not yet open until this first little hint, yeah? Because it's much more dangerous and scary, isn't it, to be just in control?
Yeah. Rather
than ranting and raving, yeah?
Which is way more fun, but
absolutely. But there's that's coming, right?
Yeah.
This is also a great little thing to remember for auditions, or at least I think it's great, which is that you give them, the panel, what you're giving them for free. And actually you probably paid a lot of money to go there and whatever. And so you say, okay, here's my fortissimo or whatever, which you reach at one point in the aria and not every point. And if you want more, you're going to have to pay me. Yeah. And that's a very, I hope anyway, kind of empowering in the sense that it's less coming there with a begging bowl and saying, this is what I have to offer. You know you want it. I'm not going to give all. I'm not going to give everything. Yeah. Apart from at one strategic point, there's always a point in any aria. There's always a point where you say that's the point, that's the high point. Frankly, in any piece of music, that's really what you're aiming for. And we're not there yet. We're that's coming, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, lots of blah blah from me. Let's. I would quite like to hear that again. I would quite like to hear it again, but then we're going to go on. We're going to talk about nuovo delitto. Super. Wasn't that great in the first page when you really saved that hairpin and did it in a really really intentionally? Yeah, that was terrific. But then come back, yeah. It's because then we're listening. Oh, did we hear that? And you're like, nope, nothing to see here. Character, you know. He, fe, di, da. Stop. Okay, then. Da, da, dum, da, dum, bum, bum, bum. Now here I want you to be incredibly strict. Always in silence, that's when, almost always in silence, that's when you have to be the most strict, rhythmically speaking, unless there's a fermata there or a tradition that you stop and all that. But not here, I don't think. Bum, 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 bum. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, nuovo delitto. Again, it's scarier like that, you know, it's less human like that. New sin, new desecration, new evil deed, yeah? I mean, again, we are a bit more modern than talking about sin and so on, but if you know, I'm sure you can imagine, like, imagine Donna Anna sings that. Yeah. It'd be completely different to the way, you know, Lady sings that, right? Yeah. Well, because you don't care. Absolutely, that's exactly it. You know, you know the evil, you identify the evil, but you don't identify with it. That means you can easily chop people's heads off or do whatever it is you need to do. Okay, and that is, please, can I implore everybody, when you have a little silence like that and it needs to come in rhythmically, don't just assume, oh yeah, I can do that. Because when you are in front of a panel or an audience or whatever, you're not just you, any singer, sense of chronological and musical time is so screwed up because of adrenaline, because of thinking, because of, you know, because of all these things. And, you know, it's like I, as a pianist, should never, ever ask a singer what their tempo is for an aria just before they're about to sing it, because they'll always tell you something about 50 metronome marks too fast. Yeah? It's happened to me when I didn't know pieces and I said, how fast is this? And they say, it's that fast. I say, and I do it and then they fall apart. You know? It's something you learn by doing badly, in my case. So yeah, really practice what that feels like, yeah, and practice it, because it will feel like, oh, it's so long, it's too long, it must be something wrong. But again, what you want, certainly for an audition panel, is to just finally, for 1 minute, get them to stop texting or whatever it is they're doing and actually listen. Yeah. So if you really give the time there, or between you and me, maybe a fraction of a second more, then, you know, they'll stop, they'll look up and they'll, oh. Do you know what I mean? They'll make you engage, and it's those tiny things that make such a difference to the way you are listened to. It's not fair, but it's true. Okay, so that's that. Same thing, obviously. The next phrase, più piano. Really observe these dynamics. Yeah, nuovo delitto, nuovo delitto. It's quite fun that the first nuovo I see is printed with a capital N. The second one with a small n. I don't know if he actually meant to do that or anything, but that's useful, I think, to clock it that way mentally. Then, è necessario. Now, I know you want to go bum, 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 like that, don't you? You want to go like, that's the rhythm, because, of course, that is the speech rhythm. È necessario. Fight it. It's less human, it's more frightening. If you do the real triplet, è necessario, è necessario, and it also enables you to get full purchase behind each pitch. Yeah. So not yum dagadam, not absolutely not that. Yeah. Okay, 2 more things, and I think we'll have to stop. This is interesting now, Verdi. He gives you, it's interesting because it looks on the page like Verdi doesn't give you much information, but even this early Verdi, actually every single thing he writes really means something big, doesn't it? In this case, I'm talking about l'opera fatale. Because what you want to do, what the music wants to do, is to go to the second bar, just like we did in the first page. Yeah. But here, Verdi is telling you not to do that, isn't he? He's telling you to give all the energy at the beginning of the phrase. Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like, you know, skimming a stone. Yeah. So the energy is first there in the first bounce, and then it dissipates. Yeah. Okay. And that's the shape, that's the gesture. Yeah. Yeah. And then just one thing. Come piacerebbe is fine. L'opera fatale. Now the le of fatale is not part of the fermata. The fermata comes later, doesn't it? Okay. So you just gotta put the handbrake on there. Okay. L'opera fatale. Okay. Because then you have what my piano teacher used to call a loud rest. Yeah. So the rest has real impact. Yeah. And then we go on. which I think we might not have time for, so I think we leave it there. I hope that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bravo, Whitney. We're going to take another 5-minute break and we'll come back at 7:30 our time.
Great.
Hello.
Hello.
Let me get my list up. Kelly is up next. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us where you are from and what you'll be singing.
All right. Hi, I'm Callie. Can you hear me?
Sort of.
Sort of? Okay. I'll talk a little louder. So I'm Callie, and I'll be singing Ich kann nicht sitzen from Elektra.
Great.
Das Gericht herbei auf sie und ihn. Ich kann nicht sitzen und ins Dunkel starren, wie du. Ich muss mir weinen Brust, es trägt mich immer rundherum hinaus, in Träumen kommen leidet mich, ich muss nur eine Stimme tritt auf, mir ist das Leben nicht, und komm ich hin, so steht ein Ich habe so viel Angst, mir zitterten die Knie bei Tag und Nacht. Mir ist die Kehle wie zugeschnürt, ich kann nicht einmal weinen. Wie Stein ist alles, Schwester, ist es, die mit Eisen flammen mich auf dem Boden schwindet. Was nimmst du, sie Wasser und los? Gar nicht dein Haus, dein schlafloses und mächtiges Gemüt und den Verzichten. Oh, so ließen sie uns ja hinaus aus diesem Berge. Schwester, ich will heraus, ich will nicht jede Nacht bis an den Tod schlafen. Ich sterbe, will mich aber leben. Kinder will ich haben, bevor mein Leib verwirkt und mir sein Mord in sie weggeben. Ob Mitleid mit dir selber und mit mir, wie trocknen, wo ich war. Der Vater, der ist tot, der Bruder kommt nicht heim. Immer sitzen wir auf der Stange, wie angehängte Vögel, denn links und rechts den Kopf. Und niemand tut. Kein Bruder, kein Bote, von dem Bruder nicht der Bote, von einem Boten nichts. Mit Messern gräbt Tag und Tag in deinem
Great, we've got an extra phrase there. Normally, in an audition situation, as you know, you would just be stopping after 5 or 6 times. But that's absolutely fine. But today, no problem. Nice to hear the nice to hear the last one. Let's start there though, because the thing about that phrase is that it's just as schwungvoll as all the rest of them. Yeah, you made much too much at the end of viel lieber, ba ba bum ba ba bum, viel lieber.
Sure.
It's to have that neurotic forward energy that we were talking about before,
Right.
just as much, to be honest. I mean, I may have said to you or to one of your colleagues, I've heard this aria 20 times this week, and I never get sick of it ever. Never get sick of it. But I forget who I've told what. You're getting ready, Chrysothemis, to sing another aria, right? You could go again, the character, yeah. But you get basically interrupted by Clytemnestra and her whipping of the servants and so on. So anyway, just keep that last sentence, that last entry live and alive.
Okay.
Great. Let's do, because we're a lot of singers are coming from North America. Let's talk about schwas briefly. The way I've learned it and what I find very useful to say to everyone is that a schwa at the end of a word, take dunkel as an example, the schwa should be pretty close to the previous vowel. I don't know if you and I talked about this. So actually the difference between dunkel and alles, they're both phonetically speaking the schwa, right? An unaccented neutral vowel. But they're quite different. If I say it really slowly, dunkel, alles. Yeah, they are not the same. Yeah. So what I hear a little bit from you, which is what I hear from an awful lot of American singers, so don't worry, is dunkel. Yeah. Alles. You tend to move more bright / more closed than you need to. Yeah. So dunkel, alles. It's like a release. It's not even really a. That's why perhaps they call it a neutral vowel. I'm not a phonetician, but yeah, it's not something you have to shape. Yeah, it's something that you can just visit, if you like, from the previous vowel. Okay. I noticed right at the beginning. Ich kann nicht sitzen und ins Dunkel starren. Dunkel starren. So a little bit like. Yeah, good. Very nice. Lots of what I was saying to Alyssa. I'm hearing that you've taken on, so I'm hoping not to repeat myself too much. So rehearsal, yeah, here's a nice little thing you can do with the text. Ich muss von einer Stelle auf die andere. Ach, yeah. There, I mean, usually you guys do too much gospel stuff and it chops things up. But here, I think the text needs it. I need to go from one threshold to the other. Von einer Schwelle auf die andere. The point is not Schwelle. The point is that you're constantly moving between them. Remember what I was saying to somebody else, that the characters, they get no rest. They get no rest. I've got to go from one to the other. Yeah. Keiner kann man leidet nicht. Yeah. You know, I can't bear to stay in one place. Almost literally is what you say. Yeah. Step out, very nice. You had the same thing as Alyssa with this famous line. And I think in your case, what you're doing is you're what I would call chewing the text a little bit. Ich kann nicht einmal weinen. Yeah. And I would really try. I mean, it's a mad suggestion, but when you're practicing, maybe do the entire aria in a vocalese style. Yeah. Like you would with something bel canto or aria antica or something. And it's a big workout to do that. But pick your favorite vowel and go for it. And see where you can take time, see where you really can't. This is one of those places. It's interesting because it's not like you are singing in tempo and the music's too fast. It's that you're actually objectively singing it too slow. Mir ist die Kehle wie zugeschnürt, ich kann nicht einmal weinen. It's a bit heavy. Ich kann nicht einmal weinen. What does einmal mean in this context?
I can't even
Exactly. It doesn't mean once or anything. It means even. I can't even weep. I can't even cry. I would say, if I was speaking to you, kann ich einmal weinen? Yeah. So the einmal, I mean, I have more Austrian accent than German because of my wife, but you say almost like ama. It's a word which, I mean, of course, you need to sing einmal. Don't get me wrong. You need to sing einmal, not ama. But the point is, it's not accented at all. Ich kann nicht einmal weinen. And then that gives you our famous schwung, which we've talked about lots today. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're doing something which you're not supposed to do, which is a glottal stop in the middle of a word. Figure 82. Wär's nicht du, sie ließen uns aus. I think I heard a glottal in the middle of the word there. No glottals at all. There's no time. Ließen uns aus. With kind of fire and energy. Very good actually. This is great and gemüt for the sitzen, very nice. The R on the B natural leg, just check the pitch. I think you were a little high. For dem sitzen, it's sitzen, that's all whole tones. In fact, Sie sitzen, that's all whole tones, even though it doesn't look like it because of the spelling.
Okay.
Yeah. And then here, just coming up, aus diesem Kerker. You did the accents well on the half notes at the beginning of the bar, but we need also on the quarter notes. He's been very specific with writing them. Aus diesem Kerker. And it's clear why he's written it like that, isn't it? Because when if you're in a Kerker, in a dungeon or a basement or something, and you might be, your arms might be chained to the wall or something, and you're struggling to get out. Aus diesem Kerker. And that also vocally gives you the release afterwards. I mean, Strauss is such an incredible master, particularly with the female voice. Not so much with tenor voices, but certainly with the female voice, such a master. Because then, Schwester, ich will hinauf. If you get a real difference between those accented passages and the non-accented passages, then I think the schwung again comes more easily, if that makes sense, because you release yourself then vocally. You allow yourself to be a little bit heavier, aus diesem Kerl, and then off you go. Yeah. If you didn't do the first thing, then you wouldn't get the second. That makes sense. Sort of pays you back. Yeah. Now, one of my absolute favorite places. Look at the way he's written this. Ich sterbe, will ich auch lieben, Kinder will ich haben. Yeah, it's you and I may have said this already in the coaching, but for the benefit of everyone else, Strauss has really deliberately written one bar too few. Yeah, because what it sort of should be is Leben, Kinder will ich haben. And that will be, I'm sure, less stressful for you singers as well. But unfortunately, that's not what he's written. Yeah. Now, to get really detailed and sort of pedantic almost, slowly. Leben. So even the ben, it's not on any bar line, is it? Not on any strong beat. It's on a really, really weak beat. Third big bar, second beat of the bar, right? That's almost the weakest place it could be. So all you need to do is just put it there. You understand? You don't need to help it. And he's given you marvelous build-up because ich is on the E natural, and then sterbe F, and then back again you have another run up via E flat and ich up to F leben, and then Kinder, and then the G there on the harmony is just like when you're in an airplane and you go through the clouds, and all of a sudden, wow, you have this amazing vista, isn't it? Should we have that much again? Good. Lots of good things. There are a couple of things that you still need to work in from what we said, but you'll hear that in the recording or the notes you've read. What I'd love is if we just go from where we stopped without the music.
What was that? Sorry?
Without you looking at the score. Do you think that's possible?
Without you looking at the score, start where, sorry?
Without you looking at the score.
Just start right there?
Either start there or start from the beginning. I don't mind. I'd love to hear a few.
Totally start right there. Oh yeah.
Great. Just a few phrases, or ideally the whole thing. I want just to liberate you a little bit from the book because you're keen to get it right. That's great. But you're quite book bound at the moment, and I'd love us to. Yeah, let's just have you. There you go.
Got it.
You got it. Okay, I should have asked you that before.
That's from Wisconsin. All right.
Great, terrific. I hope everybody heard how liberated you were there. That was really terrific, and I think that's a really important point to make for everybody now, which is that even when you're learning something, okay, have a go off copy. Even if you make mistakes, text and rhythm or whatever, because you're early on in learning. Do that early on in your learning, because that will feed back when you're doing the study and the busy work, which you have to do, obviously. You know in a way what you're aiming for. Yeah. It was the same with me when I was playing piano concertos. You just have a run through, even though you're nowhere near ready, and then firstly you know where the places are you have to improve, but more importantly you get a bigger sense of how the aria is going to fit together. Otherwise, when we study, and particularly when we study a lot on our own and we're doing everything over Zoom and stuff, it can get very what we call myopic, a little short-sighted. Both the hyper attention to detail and the big picture are equally necessary. Yeah. And what I would encourage all of you guys to do is to be playing with those two extremes right at the beginning, even way before you feel comfortable doing it. Yeah. Okay. That made sense. Anyway, you did really, really well in that first half. Excellent. Kinder will ich ihn gebären. Your instinct is to do the rich far too much. It only says etwas, right? Only etwas. Yeah? That was a point where the piano version is correct, really, or more correct. Yeah. Another point I would say to all of you, particularly those of you who are learning any roles in Elektra, is how fine the margins are, in the tempi between what you find as singers you can then manage and not manage. And this is something that doesn't go away, because like I say, the finest margins of the conductor and the way the orchestra then responds to the beat, whether it's an American orchestra that plays very much with or a more European orchestra that plays a bit behind, the margins are incredibly fine. That would be a general point for everyone. It's not really a very reassuring point, because I'm just saying it's even harder than you think it is to sing this stuff. But it's just something to have in the back of your mind. You know, these tiny adjustments can add up to either you getting really tight and tense and tired, or being really free and being able to give of your best. And that will vary from evening to evening. But if you have a run of 5 shows, that, you know, you should expect that it wouldn't be identical every time, because, you know, the information, there's just so much information that, you know, it's a good 108 people, I think, in the orchestra of this piece. You know, they've all had different things for breakfast and have different things going on in their lives, and that means they play fractionally differently, which means that you need to sing, you need to respond fractionally differently, and these things, like I say, add up. That's just a general point for everybody. Back to something detailed and a bit more pedantic. Careful that with double L, the word alles, I can't remember where we are, but the L is still too far back and too big, yeah? And also you're combining it with a slightly Americanized, darkened A. So you're kind of going alles, yeah? So not only is the A vowel a little dark, but then the L is a bit too far back, yeah? So get that tongue working, exactly, get that tongue nice and full. Very good. Something interesting happened now towards the end. This will be my last point, which is once we've done all the quieter stuff, which you did very well. Yeah, the new color, it's almost as if that quiet stuff never happened, isn't it? Rehearsal 102. Und auf einmal sind die entbunden ihrer Last. Yeah, that's a complete volte-face, completely different. And just technically speaking, I think at 104, I think what you're doing is you're putting too much air behind it and pushing, and it pushes you upwards a bit.
Sure.
And the reason I say that is because later on, I think you know, Kinder werden groß, you handled that technically much more efficiently, much better. But it was the prior one, wasn't it? So that's why I know you can do it, right? And actually, you went way sharper. You went very sharp indeed. I'd love to, if we could, just in the last minute, if we could find that bit, we could just have a go.
Yeah.
Something like rehearsal 102, 103 will be perfect.
Sure.
That's good, yeah. Great. I think we've run out of time, but you need to organize the breath slightly better at the end there. And one feel line by, that is only in piano at the start, believe it or not. But don't give everything there and push hard there and then simply run out of breath. You can breathe as much as you like before it. Nein, ich bin ein Weib und wir There are no, at that point, there are no bar lines at all. Yeah. And actually, I know it sounds silly, but you should do it as a kind of singing in the shower version. Yeah. Just as if you were kind of singing it to yourself almost. To get no, seriously, to get a sense of the shape of it. Yeah. To get a sense of where it's going. And a sense of where you then, when you sing it operatically, are getting stuck. You think, it's there or it's there. Yeah, when you're shifting, I think basically when you're shifting from Passaggio territory to high, basically from the F to B flat. If you just go ya da da dee da dee da dee da dee da, then you get a better sense of the shape of the phrase. I know it sounds silly, but I think it really works.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's probably all we've got time for.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much. Brilliant work. Our next and last singer is Melissa Sumner. Melissa, I know you're there. If you could unmute, tell us where you're from and what you'll be singing.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Virginia. I'm Melissa Sumner, and I'll be singing Du bist Lenz from Wagner's Die Walkure with collaborative artist Tracy Schimmel at the piano.
Thank you very much. It's great to have live piano as well. Thank you so much. Thanks for setting that up. I'm really glad actually that we're ending the session with this, because I think this is one of the more Straussian arias of Wagner. Yeah, I'll unpack that a little bit more as we go along. But this is one that has tremendous schwung, yeah, and we can use some of the things that we've been talking about with the previous colleagues to hopefully bring this on to the next level as well. You know, people say Strauss Wagner fuck, as if Strauss Wagner sometimes is almost one composer, and I don't think that's right. Yes, word of the day, schwung, exactly. They come up on the chat. Yes, but this is an unusual aria because we've talked, didn't we, particularly in Lady Macbeth, about building up and not giving everything all at once. Yeah, but this is Strauss writes this the opposite way around, if you like. Du bist der Lenz, yeah, and so that relies on a nice schwungvoll introduction, please, and no, I would say to the to your accompanist, I'm sorry, what I forgot her name. What's the name of your accompanist? I can't remember. I don't want to just say accompanist.
Tracy.
Tracy, sorry. Hi, Tracy. I would say to you, Tracy, don't give any mercy on the bar lines, yeah? Don't be nice. Du bist der Lenz. We don't want any of that, yeah? There was a little bit of that in the middle of the aria. So this is actually a treat for you as a singer because you get to lay it out. It's a beautiful shape, isn't it? Da-dee-da-dum. It derives from Freya's motif in Rheingold. It's a slowed up version of that motif. So yeah, like I say, that's a bit of a treat, really. There is a real difference when you present an aria like this in an audition situation or just on its own in isolation, yeah? Because of course, you know, the whole first act of Walkure is such a masterful build-up, isn't it? And here you have to present it in isolation. What we tend to do when we present arias in isolation is we kind of sit on the important bits more, if that makes sense, because you're only singing for 2.5 minutes as opposed to, you know, 75 or however long this act lasts. I would ask you to really try and resist that if possible and try and think of it in the context of the whole opera. That's a really difficult thing to do, but it really changes the whole feeling of it. Now, the key thing about this whole first act of Walkure is, and this is the kind of like the sort of motto of the whole thing for you and Siegmund, is there isn't much time. There isn't much time. You've put what's his face, Hunding, to sleep, and you don't know how long this is going to last. You know, and so when you're unpacking all these incredible emotions and feelings and going right back deep to the creation of the earth, you're doing it against the clock, if you know what I mean, right? So that really helps. That should really help you to not sort of enjoy the phrases in a bad way, yeah. And actually, it only gets faster. You know, the only indications he gives you, there's one towards the end, allmählich bewegter, yeah. So the aria needs to kind of go off a precipice rather than arrive. Yeah. And of course, that's much easier when you've had Siegmund singing, you know, beforehand. And then he's gonna take over and do very erotic music afterwards. That's easier when you're doing it in the whole context of the opera. But in isolation, I would want all of you to think about simply where's the music come from, where is the music going, and how is that going to inform how I perform it? Because that's the difference between, you know, doing an aria and potentially presenting a viable artist for a role. Yeah. And it's an absolute, I mean, I absolutely love playing this introduction. So can we do it again? And Tracy, can you just give it loads of joy and just overflowing with, you know, all the notes, even if they're wrong, I don't care. So that we give Melissa a real platform to give everything at the beginning. So unusual. Let's go for it. Good. Lovely. Very, very good. Sorry, Tracy, I don't mean to pick on you. Just right there where we stopped. No art, please. Little friend. Yeah. No. I don't want to ease into the next line. That was exactly the kind of thing I was talking about. It's, of course, it's so tempting, but we want the violas just to keep running. Fremdes nur sei von je. Yeah, just, there isn't, sorry, I'm trying to think how I should best express myself. I'm getting a bit tired. Fremdes nur sei von je, as opposed to Fremdes nur sei von je. Do you hear the difference? I'm no singer, but Fremdes nur sei von je.
Yes, yes.
Freudlos fahr dir mein Nahe. This nervous energy. Yeah, it's, I suppose, related to Chrysothemis's nervous energy. Yeah, sort of. The first 2 pages were terrific. Really well done. Much better. Just be careful, like with everybody, that any note longer than a half or a half tied to an eighth or something, that still has life, and you're thinking ahead always to the next pitch. I know this sounds like an incredibly boring thing to say, but really actively think ahead to the next pitch so that we never get stuck. Dee-da-dee-da-dum, rather than dee-da-da-dum-dum, right? You feel the difference there. Because it's so short, I'd be happy just to go from the beginning.
Oh.
Is that all right?
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Great. Sorry. Sorry. Terrific. I've got 2 very specific suggestions that might help us reconfigure the beginning a little bit. I'd like you to breathe after Lenz. Du bist der Lenz, and then not breathe. Nachdem ich verlangte im frostigen Winters Frist. Yeah.
Yes.
See if you can manage that. And then Frist. It's always really interesting with Wagner phrase endings. They're so often much shorter than you think they are. Yeah. So in this case, Winters Frist off. And what does that give us? That gives us energy, doesn't it? It's not just I'm sitting on the end of a phrase and waiting for the next phrase, like I'm changing a bus. It's not like that. It's you're deliberately deciding to come off. Yeah. And that really makes a difference. On that note, on that topic, carrying on, als dein Blick zuerst mir erblühte off. Surprising, isn't it? You would imagine that it would be longer, but it rarely is. And then if Wagner gives you a long phrase ending, a long note ending a phrase, it's often he writes it as it were too long for emphasis, for a different type of emphasis. Someone like Hagen in Götterdämmerung, who is all kind of misery and darkness and can never give up on his perverted mission, if you like. But you and Siegmund could not be further removed from that. This is the most arguably the most human music in the Ring. So think of that. We haven't got time business, and change the phrase endings accordingly to what he writes, and then see if you can do it with that different phrase breath structure. Du bist der Lenz Breath, nachdem ich verlangte im frostigen Winters Frist.
Yes, let's try.
Let's try it. We're only trying. We're just trying out. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
Tremendous. Yeah, that.
My breath caught up with me on that high
No
A.
problem. Really bravo, congratulations there for changing that breath structure. In that is no mean feat. Yeah, in front of all these people on a webcam. That's very impressive that you did that. And for me it worked, and for me you discover as a singer how efficiently or otherwise you're using your breath when you challenge yourself like that. Yeah. I'm hoping you thought, yeah, there I'm getting stuck or something as you were singing, because you jolted yourself, I jolted you out of your comfort zone, and you agreed to be jolted out of your comfort zone. Good for you. Yeah, just try a completely different way of singing it, and yeah, tremendous. And you should have interplay with your orchestra. Yeah. Don't wait for them to push you along, although Tracy did a terrific job. That's really great what you did. And have that dialogue. In Wagner and in Strauss, this is one place where they are similar. The singer has so much responsibility. The singer drives the action. It's not like in earlier forms or early Verdi or something like that, where the voice is more, how can I put it, sort of embedded in the whole text. No, the singer takes a lead. It might be that you take a lead in terms of emotion, or in terms of structure, or in terms of a harmonic change where only you have the note, and you have to really trust that is correct, even though it sounds wrong, and the orchestra moves underneath you. Stuff like that is really worth experiencing. You know what I mean? Worth challenging yourself to do. Great. Can I be? Let me just be boring for a second. Sometimes when you have the R vowel, you chew it a little bit, and it morphs. The word was, simply was ich bin. So I'm going to exaggerate, but I'm sort of hearing weiß ich bin. Yeah, I would call that chewing. You're putting in a diphthong there where it doesn't belong. Yeah, so keep the vowel, any vowel, absolutely as pure as you possibly can. But I hope everyone who was listening was as excited by how different that was as I was, because that's really. I felt myself in the theatre. That had that was really when you have the context, when you're really aware of the context, you're really thinking about it, then it brings the interpretation just forward, just like that, without you even having to think about it. I would say that for everybody, your Strauss singers, your Mozart singers, your Verdi singers, it's all the same. I would say it's even more so for you in Walkure Act 1, which is basically a massive crescendo. Yeah, and at the moment we are, your aria is sort of 85-90% along the crescendo, right? And then, it's one of the most powerful experiences if the artists all together can just contain it, and then when the dam bursts, and it really bursts, and then you get this fantastic. Well, it's kind of unique. There's no even in Wagner, I think there's nothing like Walkure Act 1. Yeah, so that's terrific. Yeah. Now, we have the section which you did so well. Sorry, the text is so small. Fremdos nur sei von je, and so on. That was great. Now, once you've done that, we have this wonderful German word doch. Doch. And the world can turn from day to night, from black to white, or whatever you like, on this word doch. I mean, yeah, we know it means but it somehow means so much more than that. And in the context of this aria, yeah, we have this nervous music. And then all of a sudden there's this doch. So there was all the friendless, and I didn't understand what was alienated. You were alienated. Everyone's alienated, and now it's all making sense. But doch. Now it's all making sense. Yeah. So this is where the color changes right back to Du bist der Lenz. You know what I mean? To the first. When we were saying where you give everything at the beginning, now it's like, imagine that you start at the peak, you go down into the valley, and then with doch, it's when you start climbing again to the peak. Okay, so in terms of color and in terms of phrase length, have to erase all bar lines there, yeah? Doch dich kann dich deutlich und klar. Wagner's kind of done that for you, because he gives you these very, very long pitches, doesn't he? dich, kann, dich, and so on. Yeah. Don't get stuck on them. Make sure that they're alive. Make sure the vowel stays pure, like we said, and yeah, begin your ascent. Okay. Do you think seeing as we have the wonderful luxury of live piano, we can do this a bit quicker? What about we go from the sort of thin double bar line after Fremdes nur sah ich von je. In fact, do that bar, Fremdes nur sah ich von je, D flat minor. Do you have that?
Maybe give me like the measure before. Fremdes.
Oh, okay.
Fremdes nur sei von je. Freut was, weil mir das nah, als hätt ich nie es gekonnt, weil was immer mir kam, doch die kalte, deutlich und klar, als mein Augen weißt du mein
Thank you very much. Great. Because we haven't got much time. That gave me goosebumps there. That doch dich, that was terrific. That was really, really good. I'll just say it one more time. It's this chewing of the R vowel that there's something that you need to work on. But we'll leave it there. Now a breath challenge. Okay. Doch dich, kann dich, deutlich und klar. For my money, that's one in one. And then carrying on from there, breathe. Als mein Auge dich sah, breathe again. Okay, so remember I was saying to Whitney with the Verdi, this business of short, short, long as a kind of musical structure. This is different. This is long, short, short. Okay. Again, I would say to any of you, anything that is not symmetrical in the structure of phrases, go for that. Yeah. Even if it's just a comma, or usually it is just a comma, right? And that can just make it so much more interesting. I'd love to just try that if you're comfortable with that, yeah? Because again, I'm asking you to do a different breath structure.
Yes,
okay?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So just as the very last thing we do, just if you wouldn't mind, Tracy, playing the bar of doch dich, just play her in. Terrific. I think we've run out of time, but that's great. Always be detectives. All of you, be detectives. You know, it looks like there's not much information on a page for the Wagner or Verdi particularly, but Strauss also. And you know, for every comma, every asymmetry, every note that you think is shorter than it should be, or longer than it should be, why? Why has he done that? What are they trying to do? Mozart, Verdi, Strauss, Wagner we've had today. They are the great masters of our art, right? They do nothing by mistake. Okay, so that's a note for everybody. Yeah, I think what I was saying previously to Kelly is also useful, just to really reiterate for all of you, is go big picture and go super small at the same time. Don't do the busy work and then think about the emotion. No, they belong together, and you learn faster and more efficiently, and you get more out of your score, whichever score it is you're working on, if you do that. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your comments, because I feel that I've gotten a little complacent with this aria. So
right.
Yes.
Yes.
I appreciate you've helped me breathe some new life into it and giving me some things to work on. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy, as well.
Yes, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Chris. This has been a real treat to hear all of you. And it's been some fabulous singing. And Chris, thank you so much. Our next masterclass, also with Christopher White, is tomorrow, August 8th at 4 p.m. Central European Time. That's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everyone else, sorry, figure it out. We will look forward to seeing all of you again tomorrow, and wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.